Hi, so I was telling my story and I got halfway through and needed a break, as I'm sure you would. um, it's a funny thing to do, isn't it, to tell a life story? I'm just moving my window over here. So, yeah, it's a funny thing to do to tell a life story, but there is a point. Sometimes there is a point to tell the story because you can see a progression, and we all have progressions. Every single one of us, different levels, different experiences, different breadths and depths. And well, one of my favourite things to do is to read biographies. I love to listen to people's journeys and life stories. And if I do, that probably means that you do too. So I'm going to move from where I got to, which was basically I stopped at the divorce, but I'm just going to go back a little bit because I want to kind of set this scene. As children are really the key to everything I do. They're just, of course, small versions of us, fresher ones, nearer to source versions of us, but that means they have much more purity. And if we have the techniques, if we have the spiritual technology, I use that very carefully because I don't mean silicon-based wiry technology of chips. I don't mean that. I mean spiritual technology to prevent our children going through pains and torments and betrayals and deep despairs. If we are equipped enough with our own wisdom, our own knowledge to help them have a smoother, more exciting, creative life, then are we not stupid if we don't pass that on? So that has always been at the core of everything, really, since I could think. Doesn't matter whether I was a child myself, but it was like, well, if we know something, why don't we demonstrate it? So for me, looking at my parents, it was, well, if you say this, why don't you do it? So I wanted to be the person who said and did the same thing, so in harmony with each other, without hypocrisy. And what I was seeing with my divorce was the most scary thing of all. And what really tore at my heart was the fact that these beautiful children, these three children I brought into the world through my body and nurtured with my love and attention. Now that's the pussycat, thinks it's a miserable day, wants to go outside. I think I'll let her out. Yeah, if we, let's get back in my sitting. So if we know something and we're not operating on that level for our children, then how awful are we? So there were my three amazing, beautiful children, and they were being used as pawns by their father. He was punishing them to punish me, to hurt me, because he knew that was what I cared most about in all the universe. So if he could mess things up for them, then that would really hurt me. And he did on all kinds of levels. He'd come and collect the children when I was supposed to collect them, and I'd go to the kindergarten and find my children weren't there. He would do that with the school. He made sure that my beautiful son didn't have any of his music or his instruments for his music lessons, and so my son gave up on the music lessons because it was frankly too embarrassing and painful for him all the time not to have what he was supposed to have. All these kind of things. So that was just little slaps in the face, but of course it did get more and more intense. And the children, the way I'd raised them was to trust and honour their inner direction. So the prepared learning environment, that was the thing that the wonderful Rebecca and Mauricio Wild put together in their beautiful school in Ecuador, the Pestalozzi. And it was a key core to all that I'd been studying about children and knowing to be true and honouring that through being with my children. She wants to join in on the action. The prepared environment is about creating an environment in which your child can open, unfold, and develop their own instinctive yearnings, their own creative tendencies. And that's what I created in my house. And the thing is that I was the one who was awake. And, well, maybe the cat was awake too. I was the one who was awake in my family, and my parents wanted to be, but couldn't get past their own internal struggles. So I suffered massive betrayal from them too, where my mother even accused me of experimenting on my children. Instead, of course, what I was doing was allowing and enabling them to remain true to who they were and to open and unfold who they were. So there was deep and utter betrayal on every single side. And then another woman entered the picture who turned out to be very, very cold-blooded reptilian DNA. And she just took possession of, the man and the children. The man was very handy for her, my ex, because she could go to work and he would look after her very miserable little children, who became much happier being with their 3 new semi-siblings, my beautiful children. And the games that were played there were just torture. I couldn't even go in to give my daughter her birthday present. I wasn't even allowed to do that. This woman hired the biggest, fattest international lawyer, and they won the case. And I almost looked like I was winning it from my kind of purity and my truth stance. And then I went to the court one day and I saw a look between that new scary lawyer and the judge. The judge had been on my side for the custody, and I knew that the judge was being blackmailed by that lawyer. And I utterly lost that case, and my my family sided with him, and I lost contact with my beautiful children. Well, I had some contact. Shall I tell you what? I had 1 half day a month with other people present, because the lies that had been told about me and the manipulation, it was despicable. But this is what a heart goes through when it gets crushed and reopened on the other side. And a lot of people have had that recently when they've had relatives who've been injected with substances and then they've died. When they've been rejected by their own families for knowing things and trying to pass on. All of this turmoil of the last few years, I had back then, in 2000, up to sort of 2008. It went on, The actual decree of the divorce happened in 2006. So there was like 6 years of hope, but finally in 2006 I knew I'd lost the children, and I was tripping over to Germany for a while, and it became too painful for everybody. It was as though I was some kind of criminal, which of course couldn't be further from the truth. So what did I do? What I've always done, my strategy: if something doesn't work, if you continue in that way and it's completely negative and dark, you will be crushed. You have to have light, you have to have hope, you have to have joy. So I took a sideways movement and I developed my music, which I'd already started after my separation from the ex-husband. I'd gone and joined a dance company and I had started composing my own music. So I finished my PhD. I was trying still to get opportunities to lecture and publish, but that was finding a brick wall because of the world around me. So I went into my arts and developed them. And when I came over to England, in order to survive and thrive for myself and for the children, I wanted them to have a happy, healthy mother whenever they could return to me. So I set up a band called Inspiration. And that word just came to me. It's in George Eliot's beautiful books, Middlemarch, particularly in that book, actually. She's an amazing novelist. If you don't know George Eliot, her real name was Mary Ann Evans, an incredible writer and observer of humanity. But she had the word inspiriting, and that means to enliven and encourage. And that must have kind of niggled around in the back of my mind. And one day the word inspiration came, and that was the change for my band. So that was the name. And I was songwriting in earnest and performing and rehearsing. And it was a lot of work. It was difficult because I didn't have good relations with males, and all the musicians were males. And oh my goodness, I could go into endless territory there, but I'm not really going to. Basically, if you have to move from being a submissive, subservient, second-class citizen, such as I was instructed to be as a child, and come forth and lead a band, you can see that there would be tricky situations. But there we go. I pursued that nevertheless and had some amazing gigs, even played with the Kinks and so on. So, Stevie Nicks praised me and said we should have more albums, like the album that I produced, the first album. Truth-telling. High-vibed music, high consciousness music, music to transform your consciousness. Again, it was like my PhD. Good stuff, wrong time. No one was doing that. They all wanted nice, satanic Britney Spears stuff. Yeah, they wanted controllable acts. They wanted dark stuff because that was the music industry, dark. And we're starting to see that, how deep and dark and terrible it was. So actually, it was a blessing that I didn't go sky high. I did go to America for a while, but we didn't even tour there. It was just selling the music abroad there. Went to California to do that. So my music was a big passion because I had an amazing voice. I'd sang before I spoke, remember? I won, here we go, I've got a frog in my throat when I say I have an amazing voice. That's the way it works. Yeah, I won my first competition singing at age 4, had my picture in the newspaper. Yeah, so voice I knew was a way of transforming energetically myself and the surroundings, people around me, and touching and opening people's hearts. And yeah, I had those moments where you'd sing to someone in the audience and they'd dissolve into tears and come to you afterwards and say, I can't believe what just happened. It just opened and you really released something for me. So that was beautiful. But my God, struggle financially. And at the time I was being taxed. I had a tiny income I was allowed to keep for myself, and anything over that tiny minimal income basically went to my ex-husband and his very greedy wife, and it was supposedly to look after my children, but it wasn't. And so I had nothing to live on, and anything I made went straight to him. So I didn't have my children and I didn't have any money. Nice deal. Yeah, and my mother was tripping over there saying, oh, I just went to visit him. He's such a nice man. So I had a lot to deal with at the time. Okay, moving through that, because what I did was I did move through it. I used all of the skills I had to do it. I had a couple of channeling sessions, which I used. I used the information I got from that of how to release emotion. I used every art form I had. I was writing poetry. It would just pour through me. I was writing lyrics. Again, I would just put my pen on the paper and it would just pour out. I was drawing. I was singing. I was dancing. I was using all these skills. And I also began to teach. I'd had my little children's groups back in Germany, but now I was doing individual teaching. And eventually I was picked up by a lovely little private school, and I've actually been there ever since, so now 16 years, working as originally the singing teacher, and then they said, oh, do you think you could teach drama as well? And I thought, okay, yes, I could. And I love it because it's all about emotional intelligence. So now I sometimes teach singing, but mostly I'm the drama teacher, and very much in demand, teach little people from the age of 3 upwards. And very busy with that. So that's where I've put my heart devotional energy into enabling these children to retain their consciousness, to retain their creativity, their self-awareness, their self-trust, which is so important. Now, there's a couple of other milestones I'm just going to bring in because they also show the ability of a spirit to transform life, okay? And to avoid being captured. I'll just fast forward a moment. Recently, the last 2 years ago, maybe a year ago, I went to Oksana Bukhanin. Amazing. She's Ukrainian-Russian heritage, and she lives in the States. And she has an extraordinary ability. She kind of fully woke up recently. She found out, she was a Syrian being and had essentially been kind of blackmailed, trapped here on the planet. But she found out she had this extraordinary ability, which she was training with and now has just flown the coop and develops this amazing ability to see into any kind of dimension. She can just go there really quickly. So she does work regaining and clearing your soul essence. So a lot of people have got very difficult soul contracts, which were all created against their will without even their knowledge. Their spirit is being held in a sort of captive circle so that when they actually transition, when they die, they go back straight in and their energy gets used and siphoned off them and so on. So that's what she works in. And we had a session and it was fun because, of course, I'd done so much work already. We still found one entrapment system, which was an AI net covering my system, which was holding me down and preventing all these things that I've been producing and receiving and flowing through me from really taking flower into the world. So we got rid of that and cleared a lot of the burdens and systems of entrapment for my children and my ex-husband and my mother and my father. So that was amazing, and it just kind of crystallized everything to show me, yes, all this work I've done in the past had effect. Because here I am, and she was saying, yeah, you should be doing the same work I'm doing. And I am now, more and more. I'm combining that kind of deep delving into other territories and worlds of our consciousness in the work I do. But I don't push it. I lead and invite. And with children, you don't want to get into woo-woo weird stuff. No, because you get into trouble with their parents. You just talk about imagination, the worlds of imagination, which is what they need to sing something beautifully. It's what they need to act something beautifully. So it's definitely areas to be involved in. And of course, you're just allowing that child to be who they truly are and to develop trust. So a couple of stories in relationship to that and what I had to kind of push past and overcome. So I'd mentioned this sort of dreadful relationship really of power imbalance between myself and the masculine. And so some of the boyfriends I'd had subsequently to the ex-husband did cause problems. There was one where he suggested it would be a great idea if I took half an ecstasy pill. An ecstasy pill. And I said, well, okay, as it's coming from you and you say it's really well sourced, I will take half because I know that my body's really sensitive. So I took this ecstasy pill and my goodness, it affected me for an entire week. And I was talking to angels disguised as tramps. I was nearly pushed down the stairs by the guy I was with out of his jealousy for what I was seeing and receiving and being. I went to the trance dance love fest in Berlin and was seeing everyone who was awake, waving at them. I met an angel and a demon on the same day and had a conversation with them. I mean, it just went on and on. Very weird. Yeah, if you're sensitive, you'll understand. That's why I said only half. But even that only half, I woke up the next day and I had this figure dressed like Jesus Christ standing over the bed saying, you've messed up the matrix. And I was wondering whether that was certainly interesting. Apparently I'd messed up the matrix. Obviously, you get into disturbance when you're a powerful free being and then you take something and you can open doors and see into different dimensions. That can be disturbing to the holders of the matrix. So I got away from that relationship pretty quick. I'd had a terrible, sudden ovarian attack of sheer agony of pain, which was almost just came out of nowhere, you would say. Didn't come out of nowhere, but it was unbelievable pain, and I called the emergency systems. And they were on their way, and meanwhile, I'd just taken myself to meditate to see if I could control and lessen and reduce and heal the pain. And this emergency doctor arrived, as did this boyfriend that I mentioned, and they were plotting against me. It was so bizarre. They were trying to get me shipped off and confined to something very dangerous. And the amazing thing is that with my body and the deep meditation, the deep connection with Source, I'd managed to heal it so much that the pain disappeared. And I literally walked out of there. So there have been moments like that where I've nearly been captured, right? Not only on a spiritual level, but physically. So my mother was overtaken and possessed by entities, and she still doesn't really know the full extent of it. It always results from trauma in your past, either your past life or your childhood. And if you can't resolve it, you are like an open sponge, really. And so many other entities can control you, and they're so wily. You know, they'll pretend that they're your friend. And she went the full gamut on that one with a very strange relationship with a man with lots and lots of women. And it was a very dangerous time. That's when she was, siding with my ex-husband and was very, very dangerous herself to me. And I had to keep a wide berth. So you know what it is. You all who are listening to this, you're all the black sheep of your family, black in a very good way in this case, not dark, but you're the ones that are awake with the rest of your family who are entrapped or possessed or taken over or just sleeping. And it can be a nightmare, can be intensely painful, and you have to work out how to heal the pain. So there's another moment I just want to go into. And this is when I still felt I could possibly win the custody case to have my children. I had set up a new house in England. I'd got a job with Amnesty International, not a brilliant one, but it was there, and I was managing my band. And I thought, I've got this house, I've got a job. Yeah, I am the mother and I love these children and I can care and provide for them. And that was when I saw that final climax in the court with the judge and the lawyer. But I had one thing left. I had a holiday with the children. They came over for 10 days. And I was waiting for money to get the return ticket because everything was so tight. It was unbelievable. And the return ticket money still wasn't in my account. So I asked my mother, could I borrow? No. I asked the ex-husband, could I borrow? No. And instead he threatened to come over with the German police to come and take the children back. And it terrified me because I'd just been terrified for so long from so many awful things. And so finally I scraped the money together and we had to fly back. So my happy, rambunctious, colourful, beautiful, soul-being children, it was like 10, 20 minutes of the flight. It was like watching them switch off as they went into the field of being in Germany. And they went from being this brightness to this switch of pale. And it was soul-destroying to see it. It was like they were turning off, zombifying, going to sleep. And we went to the airport, as we would in a plane. You land at the airport, and their father was there to collect them, except it wasn't him. He's a tall guy, okay, very, very slender, but a tall man, 6'4". And his face was, completely possessed. So I've had two experiences where I've seen reptilian beings, and that moment was one of them. His entire body was completely possessed by a reptilian entity, and the gleam of glee, not joy, but glee, which shone from his eyes was just, sadly, it was evil. And he was so happy at winning and overpowering me. And these poor, beautiful children were just all folded up like a flower. You know when a flower is open at full, in the full noon of the day, and then it closes down in the evening? Those little children closed down, miserable. And he took them in this gleeful evil. It was terrifying. The other time I've seen a reptilian being was I was waiting outside a television studio in Berlin. I'd got some workers on some weird TV show. It was where you had to be psychic and guess what someone else was thinking. Okay, and I was sitting on this bench waiting for the time for my appointment to go in, and this really tall, big-shouldered man dressed in a very expensive suit walked past me, and I could feel that he knew that I knew he was not human. He was horrible. Oh my God, just horrible energy and really horribly powerful. You know, when the air kind of crackles when someone moves through? He had charisma. It was disgusting. So those are my two kind of moments where I've seen this kind of pure dark reptilian agenda energy right in front of my face. I'm just going to look at my list because I made a couple more points that I thought would be really interesting just to bring in. Yeah, because for us women, we've had this divide and conquer regime put upon the earth to put the male against the female, to take the patriarchal lineage and distort it and make it toxic, and to suppress the feminine knowledge and intuition. And so we've had sort of like several different ways of binding our spirit and suppressing us and reducing us. And I had to go through all of that. I've been single now for quite a long time because the last relationship I was with had bits of joy in it, but basically the guy was so wrapped up in his own narcissism because of his unhealed past. He couldn't actually free himself from the lies he was living. So I've been single for a long time now, but this idea of a male trying to make the female change her shape to adapt to their own poison, their own brokenness, was something I went along with for a long time until I gradually built up my strength because I wasn't going to tolerate it anymore. I had to build it piece by piece, but I did. Okay, so that's what I want to say. And how I did it was by relentlessly pursuing my joy, the things inside me, using and exercising all the tools inside myself. Look at that. Can you see? Look, there are these 3 drawings. These are from my beautiful Zog stories. I haven't even talked about my authorship, I've talked about my songwriting, but I went on to make radio shows based on a world that I was receiving information from, and it was our future Earth. Our future Earth. Some people call it Gaia. Some people call it Tara, but it was definitely our future. That was always what I wanted to look at, the future for our children. So I created this radio show where I was talking to all these people from the planet Zog, which was our Earth. And then I developed it into children's books. So I'm actually writing the 4th one right now. But Milo and Teal were 2 children from Zog who discovered what was going on Earth and were completely puzzled and really wanted to help the children to find themselves, to own their creativity, get their power back, and to just get everything working and moving in the way that this beautiful planet should be. And so I wrote these 3 books of Milo and Teal. And I've also then gone on to write books about education and learning, 5D learning, how you actually are a creative being. I've written a book on singing and a book on acting, and they're not the normal kind of books because it's all about a complete spiritual picture, using all of your tools, connecting with source, because that's what we humans are. And it's just reminding us what we truly are, this extraordinary wealth. So if anyone tells you you can't do it, you can. Your DNA is not a fixed thing. It is a receiving mechanism. You can program it. You can restructure it from your spirit. Now, how do you do it? You want to. That's what we call the divine will. You don't force it. You do what Bashar said. You have an intention. You hold it with 0 expectation on the outcome. Oh, yeah. Tricky to do. But the way you can do it is whatever you do because you love. And if you do what you do because you love, you don't hold heavyweight expectations on things. You just move from thing you love to thing you love to thing you love. And if something is presenting a strong, heavy brick wall, a full stop, a break, you say, okay, I'll just go over here, and you move around it. Because sometimes the longer path gets you there in the shorter time. The hare and the tortoise story is a very good one. So there we go. It's a potted history of my life and how I've come to be here and do this and speak like this with this kind of with this kind of authority, and that saying, yes, we can, and we know how to build this world better. We know what to give our children. Let's stand up and do it now. Let's carry out what we know. And let's not be hypocrites anymore. Let's not be cowards and frightened. We know how to clear ourselves. One of my favourite songs, I must rearrange it because it has this beautiful line in it that says you're never too old to clear yourself, free yourself to the stars. So with that, I leave you. That's my little potted life history, and I shall see you very soon for some more heavenly tea.